So here's a quick kind of once over of the Jimmy's that's for sale. It's cold right now. Have to fire it up. It's got the Holley Dash, the Switchpros. It auto defaults to having the one fuel pump on. When you turn this off, I think it just auto defaults to whatever was on last. So that was on last. Bumper. It's got the 2 lights in the front, which are small, but they're actually pretty powerful. Same deal with all these. So dome light, rock light, tail lights, those are all kind of the same. Dome light, rock light is 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe. 4 of the rock lights. And they're small, but again, they work really well for what they are. GPS turns on that, and then this turns on your little transmission fan that's up front. Aux 1 is going to be the winch. And so we don't need the bumper light or the GPS on. And it didn't turn on because I didn't actually turn it on. I'll turn that on in a second. So it's in park. This is on. Let that fire up. Shows it's cold. It's 65 out. There you go. Turn the GPS on so you can see it. It's got USB. You see by the light, it works. 1 amp, 2.1 amp. And I popped all the quarter turn fasteners off for the hood so I can take it off and kind of give you a rundown on that. Move that to the tire. So I'll just let it idle so you can see nothing overheats while we're looking at it, or turn it off in a little bit. No leaks, no overheating. And then LS3, got the Holley Sniper EFI intake. The valve covers. I'd have to look it up, but they are aftermarket injectors. The computer for the Holley is underneath the passenger footwell, which is under here. It's the Terminator. So it's well out of the way of any of the elements. All this stuff that's just like gold color is Cerakoted, so it's a much tougher finish than just your standard paint, which is going to be water pump. Both of the 10-inch third members, they're Cerakoted. The transmission, so there's the back one, super clean, easy to clean because they're coated with that. Atlas, that's got the same coating, and then I don't know if we can see it from here. Yeah, you probably can. The transmission. It's got the same deal. Exhaust is super clean. Stainless headers, V-bands, all TIG welded like the rest of the whole deal. Really simple, just a straight through there, and then the muffler on the back. They're true duals, no crossover or anything, I think just for packing. They got heat shields on them, you can see, because your seat's right above it, which actually works pretty good. It doesn't really get that hot. You can see the condition of the drive shaft. Perfect, looks brand new. Condition of the back one, thing. It doesn't have a scratch on it, minus on the yoke itself, just I mean like super minor stuff here. You can see the temperature's coming up, 130. I'll let it get up to temp so you've at least seen a heat cycle, oil pressure. You can scroll scroll through and set up this just like any other Holley, any kind of gauge you want. Somebody was asking about hours or miles. Haven't had a chance to look through here. It very well may have hours or miles on there, but I'm actually not sure, so I'll spend some time and look through that later. I like the screen it was on originally, but there's a bunch of different options. Oh, so you can see the last place I was, the Rubicon, Loon Lake Trailhead, Gatekeeper, everything's marked in there, super easy to use. I've never used a Lowrance or other than normal car GPS or airplane GPS, I've never used a Lowrance like this, but it's very, very easy to use. It popped up all the waypoints, touchscreen. Like I said, I'm not like a GPS fanatic with those, but very intuitive. It's a pretty simple LS3. It's got, what's nice is 2 steering pumps, one for the front and one for the back. There's one here and one here. You got 2 reservoirs, 2 coolers, and then of course the one for the front valve and for the back valve. Now it's just pushing it like that there, right and left. That's what this hole is from Jimmy, or sorry, this in here. This was mounted up here. It's just not that intuitive to have your hand up on the dash. With one hand, you have to reach back to the shifter this way if you needed to shift. So to have it just right here next to your side is just a little easier to use. But it left the blank hole in the dash. Here's the battery, it runs the whole deal. Super small, lightweight. All the wiring is super clean. The weatherproof stuff, it's all twisted, waterproofed, covered, kind of throughout the whole deal. It was all built at one time. This wasn't like a piecemeal thing where some wiring's great, some isn't. Everything is, it's pre-thought out. It's done really nicely. All the tabs for the wire to sit in, and then zip tie. Very easy to service if you ever need to take it out. Work on it. Nothing leaks. The only thing that I've had was a little bit of seepage out of here. So you can see there is a little tiny bit of seepage, gear oil coming out of there. So that's really it though. Everything else is super dry. The only damage that's on the whole thing are scratch marks, dents, like super minor, kind of all throughout. This is the AR500 on the diffs, that's TIG welded on, so it's like super tough, but you still can dent it, you can still scratch it. There's no dents, there's just minor scratches. The weld, you can see the welds, and there's still coating on the bottom of a lot of this. Fit and finish is just like perfect on everything. The only thing I would change if I was gonna hang on to it a little longer is maybe trim these guys down. This overhang, I don't really think serves any purpose. It's beyond the weld. And you can tell that's kind of the only thing that's gotten caught up. Maybe it's a slider to kind of protect the portal. It's kind of the only thing I can think. But that's the only thing that's really gotten hit. Brakes, my fingernail doesn't even get caught. There's so little wear on it. You do probably see this here. This is the worst of all 4. But the joints or the yokes have come in contact with each other, and they've just worn in. So they're not getting any worse. If you didn't want it to have that close of, like, basically no clearance, it's self-clearance at this point. That's the worst of it. Like I said, these ones are barely kissed. So it's fine. It's a little unsightly. It's a little nerve-wracking first time you see it. But the fix for it will be to limit the steering. Either physically put a stop on it, but this is pretty strong. I don't know if you'd want to do that. Or internally, I think you could do that. But it's really not needed. It's been, I think Jimmy's, the guy before me told me he talked to Jimmy's about it. said if you're really worried, just don't turn all the way, but that's not really an option because you can't not turn the steering wheel all the way. And it's gone out a number of times, it's never been an issue. Just kind of looking around while it's idling up, all your coolant lines. It's running that way. See where it continues on the back. Comes on up here. Probably see it through the mesh. All AN fittings. Your PCI radios for the headsets. There you go. Your fans just kicked on, so you probably finally got up to tap. Yeah, 196. Fans just kicked on. We'll wait until they turn off just so you can show things work. I can show things work, and then we'll turn it off so you can hear everything. Just keep walking around in the meantime. Your return, pickup, your vent. Super nice fuel cell. It's not just your basic Summit or Jegs. I gotta be a little stronger and use two hands to get it off, but it's filled with foam and it's got the Holley Hydramat at the bottom. Only bummer about that is it's kind of hard to tell how much fuel you have in it. I just make sure it's topped off beforehand. The two fuel pumps. It's one unit that houses both. Remember when we saw when we turned it on, it has the one. If you ran into an issue, you literally don't need to do anything. If your engine dies for whatever reason, the fuel pump crapped out, which is super rare, but if it does, you just click fuel 2, turn off fuel 1, and then you're running on the other pump. That was added by the previous owner. He wanted to have the redundancy of the second fuel pump in case you don't want to be stranded. So that was the only thing that was changed wiring wise, was the heated seat. Is this here, and that used to be heated seat, but now it's fuel 2. So heated seats are actually not connected. You would have to unplug the second fuel plug outlet, plug it into here, and then you'd have your heated seat back, but you wouldn't have your fuel pump. So it's either or right now. Right now it's on fuel pump. So water temp's coming down. We're down to 180. Should kick off pretty soon. Yep, there you go, right there. So 180, kicked off. Maybe give it like a quick rev or something so you can see it works and it sounds clean. You can see the little pedal there, it's just a cable. So you can see the fuel pressure and RPM. I was pulling the cable, just like kind of high idle for a second. Kill that and turn it off, turn that off, and then it takes a second for it to register and it turns off. Fuel pump's off. So I do a full heat cycle, not a drop anywhere. It was cold, now it's hot. See if there's anything else under here that's worth looking at. You got the aftermarket pan, aftermarket case on the transmission. It's fully built. On that spec sheet, it kind of lays out what it is, but you know, the aftermarket bell housing, case, Cerakoted. That's just your shift linkage. There's a billet torque converter. Yeah, it's got a little surface rust, but that's kind of my only complaint with this entire build is that the powder coating is clear, and it was acid wash or whatever they call it, but it still will develop slight surface rusting. This is probably one of the worst spots. You can see right here. You know, there's little spots kind of throughout. Overall, it's really not bad. The bummer is if you want it to be the absolute prettiest back how it was, there you go, a little bit of this, is it would have to be taken apart and recoated. It's to the point where it's super, super minor surface rust. And it's just slightly unsightly. So it's under the powder coat. Like there's no, you can't feel any, intrusions or anything, but you can see it start to develop. Nice thing is it's not hiding anything. You could see everything that's there. It's not like this was sprayed over incredibly terrible rust spots or anything. You know, you can see it's still smooth. It's not even, you know, etching into the material all that much. But what I was saying, it's not like somebody had some rusty thing on the East Coast and they just hit it with spray paint or put a fresh coat of paint on it. You know, this thing, you can see what you see is what you get, and very, very, very minor flaws, really. 2 storage totes, they come out with just a few bolts if you didn't want them in there. The fire extinguisher. The internal bypass shocks, very little wear. These were coated. The whole bodies of the shocks were coated. So all these things that were coated, you can't just spray them with you can't just send them to the spray shop and tape them off. Everything was disassembled. Like all this here, everything was disassembled. It was all taken apart, the case, everything. It wasn't just, you know, masked off and whatnot. It all has to come apart for this to happen when it was built, of course. These aren't the original ones. These are the upgraded reservoirs. They've got the clickers here for firmer, softer. I think it's compression, and then the rebound. This here, not really sure. Not a shock guy. And obviously the 7/4 weld portals are kind of the beauty, one of the beautiful parts about this rig. They're in excellent condition, almost never been touched. I think this is the only damage on all of them, is this here. So very, very minor. I mean, you could still get a wrench on all that. All the hardware is original. These are just vent lines. This is a brake line. You got your bumps. You can see, you know, wore through the powder coat. That's how little the wear is. These are original. Underneath. This thing's been coated, hydro dipped. I believe the front's the same. Anodized, engraved on all the lengths for the steering, front and back, 4-link front and rear. I mean, it's really like, it's a work of art. And that's kind of why I think this thing hasn't been used much, is it's too pretty. And I think people want to go out and beat on it. That's the case with me, at least. And the last guy, I think, had too many rigs. I'm just getting something different. A couple others were being built. Locking dipstick for the transmission, for the engine, you know, little minor things like the plug wires and all your vent lines are AN. I don't know if there's anything specific people are wanting to see. Everyone's asking for more details because, of course, it's a pretty wide market that people are interested in. They want to come from like the East Coast and the South, but I'm out in California, so they've all been asking for videos. Finally getting around to making something. The dual for the front and back is linked to just a single pedal. Here's your throttle, your brake. Don't have any headsets, so I've actually never used it, but I believe push to talk there, push to talk there. There's for the communications for the driver, co-pilot. Well, not co-pilot, co-driver. And then the race radio, it's got a bunch of stuff preset in it. You got your bags. Everything's in great shape. There's really no issues. Harnesses. It was built, I believe, in 1920. I think the best of my knowledge, it was finished like the last day of 2020 and looked like it was all put together in 2021. So it's really not that old. We just hit 2025, so 5 years or so. 4 years, 5 years. Just some of the quality of the construction. Some of the cool stuff people like looking at are these extra braces, all this stuff on the axles. I mean, it's like crazy how much talent was put into this thing. Wish I could keep it. I'm a little afraid to, like I said, beat on it. I like just keeping it pretty. I'll let the next guy destroy it. These are the same tires that were on it when it was built. Maybe not when it was built, maybe it was first sold or something. As far back as I can see, it hasn't changed tires. A little bit of rock rash on all the rings. But the 42, 14, 520s, these have been powder coated. Wilwood Brakes. There's a fifth one that's brand new, wheel and tire. So you can see all the rock rash. A little bit on all of them. Your standard Unimog, impossible to get off nut if anybody's dealt with the Unimog stuff before. I had a Unimog axles on a Toyota way back in the day, and they weren't as strong as the 7.4 weld stuff, so I did have to go through them and take them apart. And that nut is notorious, or that bolt is notoriously super hard to get on and off. But it's got 2 valve stems if you wanted to put water in them. I don't have any water in it. Really just kind of take this out with my kid, who's now 5. So we don't do anything too wild. Rock rash on this one. You know, easy to just get a new ring if you're worried about it being super pretty. You can see the brakes. Very, very slight wear. The nail doesn't really catch on all of them. Little spider web. All these same connectors throughout. I mean, the attention to detail, it's literally under the seat, under the dash. Places you'd never see it, the attention to detail is the same as it is where you always see it. Like, they didn't just do their perfect welds and line everything up perfectly on just this stuff that everybody sees, but I mean, you pull out these panels, they fit perfect. Most aluminum stuff I've ever dealt with, or most tin work, you pull it off and it kind of pops and is impossible to get back in. This stuff just fits right into place. These fasteners are super easy. You're not like fighting any of them. Because I've taken all the panels off to clean it. It's just easier to look at stuff. Go through and retighten everything. Everything that's been marked, well, that one in particular isn't lined up, but everything that's been marked, that was all previous owner, so that's why some of it's fresh and some of it isn't. I probably need to go through and relook at it all, but I've always just tightened it myself and haven't been as good as a previous guy with actually marking it. I just do it once over before a trip, make sure everything's tight, and got to get myself one of those marking pens. There's a spare belt that's on the back. I think I've walked like 10 circles around this thing. If there's anything I missed, anything someone wants to see, just let me know. We'll make another one. It looks like this thing's like 20 something minutes long. A lot longer than I was thinking, but hopefully, you know, there's your fuel filter, regulator return deal. There's the valve for the steering. Little dirty under there, not terrible. Yeah, I mean, if there's anything else you wanted to see, just let me know and I can make a new video, or maybe someone can fly out and check it out in person if this is enough. But yeah, the links, you know, little rock rash, that's like just standard issue. For this to be as capable of a rock color as it is, and to only have like maybe an hour's worth of driving worth of scratches on it is kind of unreal. I'm not saying it only has an hour's worth of driving, it's just you could do this kind of damage, not even damage, but you can do this kind of wear in like an hour on a real trail. So it's kind of crazy to see how it's in such good condition still. You know, the grounds are all in one place here. It's just well built all over. Removable, so you can get this off, obviously, to get the engine out. Easily serviceable. It's got the routing. Should probably refresh what the belt number is, but the routing of it, some of you guys might know, you can route things a bunch of different ways, and it only works really one way. So it's kind of nice that they thought out and did that. You know, this is the vent line again for here. Vent line for the diff. think that's about it. Yeah, let me know if you need more. See ya.